Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. This is season 3, episode 4. Just give me a mental shift, whatever that looks like. And so I was thinking about how the second Friday of the month of January is the Friday that everyone tends to quit their New Year's resolution. So we make them, we prepare for it, and then for 2 weeks we keep them, and then they either become too difficult or we're not seeing immediate results because we know that we're the microwave culture. We want things immediately. And so when that happens, we just say, okay, well, I'm going to change or totally give up, maybe even change whatever the initial resolution was, instead of saying, okay, well, maybe my mindset toward this thing needs to shift a little bit. Maybe I don't need this everything has to be perfect approach. Maybe I need to give myself some leeway. Maybe there needs to be a more realistic approach to this thing. We just tend to give up. And when I started thinking about that, I started thinking about the type of mindset shift that has to happen for change to take place. And so we really are humans who have had conditions put upon us, and we've downloaded things up into the point of where we are in life, whatever age you are. And if we don't look at those things objectively and question with curiosity why we think the way we think, why we do what we do, why we are the way we are, then we can get stuck in believing that the way that we've always done it and what we've always known is how it needs to be and how it's always going to be. So when you think about, when you were a kid, you may have thought one way about a certain thing, and then later in life, it's like a complete shift. So one of these examples is that when I was a kid, when we would go to my aunt and uncle's house, they lived like 30 minutes from us. It really wasn't that far. But when I was a kid, 30 minutes is like 3 hours. And so I used to think that that was like going to be just the longest trip and we were going to be there forever, driving in the car, etc. But now I will make that trip at the drop of a hat just to go get something that's not in my town. In fact, I make that trip just to get my kids to their schools in the morning. But when I was a child, I believed that it was this journey to get to this space, as opposed to knowing that it was really just a quick trip. And isn't that what we do with a lot of the things that we're conditioned to believe? Like, we think it's going to be this journey and this arduous task because people haven't really given us the knowledge on that particular thing. So we just continue to believe it's that way. People think this way about investing. People think this way about food, about exercise, about just a shift in anything or trying something new. So when we think about how our mental shift really propels our change and our ability to keep whatever that resolution is that you've made for yourself, or even the word that you've chosen, there are some things that either I'm learning or have learned that I think are the top tier mindset shifts that need to happen in order for change to happen. One of those is what you give power to has power over you. And I have very transparently shared my journey in abusive relationships and toxic relationships. And one of those relationships, even when he was no longer in the physical space with me, the way that he conditioned me to think, the power that he had over my perspective of myself, the power that he had over my child in that situation, it was still there, even though his physical presence wasn't there. And the reason that it was there was because I was giving power to it. So instead of saying, that's his opinion, don't really care, from years of being told who I was and how I was and why I was that way by this person and believing it and internalizing it, even when his presence wasn't there, the power of his words still was. So I had to really delve into the fact that if I was going to continue to give this person that same power over my thoughts and my actions, then I might as well just be in the same physical space with them. Like, what was the point of packing up all of my things and moving them to a new place if, and escaping what I knew to be abuse, if what actually was going to happen is he was going to still have power over me, the way I parented, the way I moved, the way I moved forward after the situation. And I think that we become so accustomed to what has power over us, whether it be um, familial systems and thinking that because this person has this title in my life, then therefore I have to do what they expect of me or say for me to do, or whether it's creating or protecting your image and staying in alignment with having that image and status because that's something that you value or has been taught to you to value, or whether it's just a person or a situation or an idea of who you want to be. Those things that you have accepted and internalized as truth have power over you. But how do you switch it? You just stop giving them the power. I remember my dad gave me this piece of advice one time when I was in the throes of trying to leave one of those toxic relationships. And he was like, it's interesting that you know that what he's doing is wrong and you know that the way he's treating you is wrong. But yet, you still trust that his thought processes and his opinions are right. And you know that his behaviors are wrong. So why would you trust those opinions and thought processes? Because the behaviors that they are producing are ones that you would never want to be like. And so when I started to really think about how that power was really being fueled by me, I had to think about how I was going to pull the plug from that power source and just say, he can think what he thinks, he can be what he wants to be, he can do what he wants to do, but that doesn't have any control over who I am and what I'm doing. And that's the same thing that you can do for yourself. So the mental shift has to come from, okay, and this is one that I'm still working on, but it's okay, the world says this is the image of beauty, but I'm not going to give that power over me. The world says that this is the way that women should be to be good moms or to be good contributors to their household. But I'm not going to give that power over me because what do I think is the image of beauty? What do I think is the way that women should operate in this world? And whatever I think is the way that I should be operating in the world, because I know that I'm going to filter it through the lens of what does God think? What do I think? What do the people that I actually value think? As opposed to giving all of these other things power that I don't even respect or agree with. The second one is that choice is the most powerful tool that you have. And this is so difficult when you've always thought the way you've thought and you've always done things the way that you've always done them. And so you don't really feel like you have a choice in the matter because it's just the way it's done. But something that was a really powerful tool for me was realizing that I had the choice to say no. I had the choice to change my thought process. I had the choice to not create a narrative in my head and to just take things for face value. I had the choice to think differently and do things differently. And I could stop in the middle of a thought, in the middle of an action, in the middle of the behavior and say, I have a choice in this. Like, I don't have to do that. So if your resolution was something that involves, being healthier, like perhaps in the morning you had a donut, but your choice could be that for the rest of the day, you're going to stay true to the plan that you created. Or perhaps having a better body image of yourself is one of those things. You may have weighed yourself this morning, but you have a choice to say whether that weight or number on the scale is going to dictate your mood for the rest of the day. And yes, it may still affect you. But the mindset shift is saying, I don't have to go down this rabbit hole that I normally go down. Like, I made a mistake with my kids this morning, but I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of judging my parental self as a whole based on that one mistake. And when we make the choice to say, yeah, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to do what I believe is the best thing for me, and that's to say, okay, this happened. And now I'm going to think about ways that I won't allow that to happen again or in the future. Or, yeah, this person said this, and guess what? I have the choice to say, yes, I'm going to keep them in my life, or no, this is not really benefiting me and this relationship is no longer for me. Like, we have the choice over every single thing that's happening in our lives. And yet we say, well, these things are happening to me, and so therefore I'm in this situation. But you're not. You're not the victim of your circumstances. You have the power to change the way you think and what you're doing and how you're navigating the world by simply making choices, by saying, I really don't want to commute to work anymore. So I'm going to start to apply for other jobs. Or I really don't like the way our evenings are going. So I'm going to start doing something differently when we come home. And instead of rushing them straight to their homework, I'm going to play a game with them first. I have a choice in the matters of all things that are happening in my life. And yes, there are some circumstantial things that are beyond your control. But for the most part, there are choices even inside of them that we can make. And it's like we forget. It's like we become this wounded animal that says, well, this is what's happening to me, so I have to just take it. The reality is you have a choice to change the trajectory of what's happening. And if you can't change the circumstance, you can certainly change the way you're thinking about the circumstance. And the other one, and this is a really difficult mindset shift for somebody who has anxious thinking, but let today be today and tomorrow be tomorrow. So if something that I'm ruminating on today needs to be fixed today, then okay, we got to get to a solution right now today. But if it's not a today thing, and it's something that I can think a little bit on today, but tomorrow will also offer some opportunity to help me through that process, then I don't have to hurry up and put everything on my to-do list and do everything today. And this resonated me when I was thinking about making a mental shift when it comes to what you've landed on as your word of the year, or just even in the journey to freedom. It's that I don't have to snap my fingers and say, okay, everything needs to change today. But today I might say, well, if I'm in a space and someone asks a question to the group, I'm going to make sure that my voice is heard. And that's going to be the thing of freedom that I'm going to commit to doing today. And then tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to think about, okay, well, today I didn't do so well at that. So I'm going to make sure that if I'm in 4 different spaces, that I make sure to make 4 different comments if I have one to make. Like, whatever it is that you are committing to something today that today's attention needs, and you're not committing to the things of tomorrow that tomorrow's attention would be better suited for. We do this a lot when we're about to fall asleep. We sit and ruminate on all the things that we might need to fix tomorrow. And in fact, what happens is we miss out on sleep, and then we miss out on sleep. We wake up in the morning, and then we can't think properly. And then because we can't think properly, now we're trying to make decisions with a lack of sleep. And it just becomes an even bigger problem than if we just focus on what today's problems are, and then let tomorrow's problems come to the surface tomorrow. And if something takes a plan that's going to take several days, then you put part of that planning process on your plate every single day. But you don't try to say, okay, today I'm going to fix all the things and I'm going to do it right now in this moment so that tomorrow I don't have to think about it, because then that just creates bigger problems for tomorrow. And the last one is, you can't change what's going on around you until you change what's going on within you. And that refers back to the choice comment that I made before. If you don't realize that your circumstances may not change, but that you can change inside of those circumstances, then what'll happen is you will remain the same and you'll continue to pick the same circumstances. It's like the person that you see going from relationship to relationship and they pick the same type of people over and over and over again, and you're going, oh my gosh, they're jumping right into the exact same thing that you just came out of. The reason that happens is the person felt like they couldn't change their circumstances. So they changed the circumstance, but they never changed what was going on inside of them. So when you're thinking about what you have resolved to do this year or the changes that you've resolved to make, part of your mental shift needs to be, okay, whatever's going on in this circumstance, like these people are not within my control. These circumstances are not within my control, but I can change what's going on within me. So instead of thinking, I have to do this, you talk about how you get to do it. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, these people are super obnoxious in this area, you might think, oh, well, this is an area where I can support the group. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, my kids don't listen and they behave poorly. Instead of thinking that, you could say, okay, well, I need to create a better structure for this environment so that this doesn't continue to happen. But we can blame our circumstances until we're blue in the face. But the reality is that no matter what's going on around you, if you don't change what's going on within you, you'll start to see the same circumstances. And if you're in that circumstance and there's nothing you can do about the circumstance right now, until you change what's going on within you, the circumstance will remain the same. Because I can guarantee you that the other people who are in that circumstance are probably operating in the same way that they've always operated. So going back to the situation that I was talking to you about before, where we're talking about, that negative correspondence that kept happening with that toxic relationship. And even though I wanted to block him, I didn't block him because part of me still wanted to have that connection and contact with him. But once I figured out that he's not going to feel like he's lost his power over me until I resolve that he no longer has power over me and I start to do the behaviors that make him think so. And when that happened, the text messages stopped and the coercive control stopped and all of the things that were frustrating me stopped happening because I changed what was going on within me so that eventually what was going on outside of me would change. Now, did that change who he is? No, same person. He hasn't changed much. But our circumstance has, and it's primarily because I changed something within me. So when we're thinking about making these adaptive changes in our lives. Like we have something in our brain and we want our actions, our thought processes, and our the way that we speak to become that thing that we've made a goal of. We have to adapt ourselves closer to what the goal requires from us. And that is going to take a mental shift. We can't think the way we've always thought and then expect things to be differently. So if you're in that space today, I would really encourage you to think about the things that you're stuck believing right now because it's what you've always known and the way that you've always done it. And then once you think about those things, think about how your mindset needs to shift as it refers to the power that you're giving that thing, the choices that you want to make but you aren't making because you're afraid to make those choices, the worry that you're giving it day in and day out when you're not changing anything for today, and how you might change what's going on inside of you so that even when the circumstances don't change, you aren't being so affected by those things. Because it's not until we make a mental shift about what's going on with us that we start to really see not just our behaviors changing, because we could white knuckle it all day. But it's when our mental and our behavior start to come in harmony where we start to actually think differently about the things that our behaviors are now changed to, or we start to behave differently because our thought processes are changing. It's not until those two come into harmony that we're actually going to see sustainable change that lasts for, a long time, as opposed to the changes that are, lasting for 2 weeks and then everybody quits on them. So if you find yourself in that space today and you need someone to talk to, remember that my 6-week, 6-session coaching course is out. So I'll put that link in the description below. And also look for some things upcoming that you can be a part of in the next couple of months, because I'm going to make myself more accessible to be able to talk to you one-on-one so that I can help you break free from the bondage that's keeping you in the space that you're in. If this video resonated with you, make sure to go to all of my socials and follow me there, like and subscribe to this page, and most importantly, share this knowledge with someone else, because as we know, knowledge gained and kept to ourselves is selfish, but sharing it with the world allows those people to be able to break free from the bondage that they're experiencing so that they may live a life in this world that is free of the bondage, that is free of the shackles, that is free of all of the control of other people, and walk in this world into the life we're destined and created for. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.